Hey everyone, hope you're all doing okay. Welcome to the start of a new project. We finished Might and Magic VI, and now we're going to move to the next logical step after that, which is Might and Magic VII. Although, as before, this first video is just going to be me explaining the objectives of the series, so if you don't care so much about what's going to happen and you simply want to watch the action unfold, then feel free to skip ahead. This video is mainly aimed at those, completionist-oriented people like myself who need to know exactly what a Let's Play will cover before they commit themselves to watching it. So in this video I'm going to be talking about everything that we're going to do, and probably more importantly, everything that we're not going to do, including things that we simply can't do, in comparison to what we were able to do in Might and Magic VI. So, because this is the second game in the series, this video won't be as long as the introductory video for Might and Magic VI. In that one I talked at length about what kind of a game Might and Magic VI was. I even got a little bit philosophical in talking about the differences between how games used to be in the olden days versus how they are now. In this one, I'm just gonna get straight to the point. Of course, all those things still apply, and it's because they still apply that I'm not gonna be spending too much time on them. So, mechanically, this game is very similar to Might and Magic VI. The engine, I think, is either identical or similar enough that it's almost the same. And the structure of skills as well. So what I'm going to be focusing on is the differences between the two, and in particular why the differences mean that my objectives in this game necessarily have to be different than my objectives for Might and Magic VI. So let's just get into it. My first objective for Might and Magic VI was to complete every single quest and every single side quest, and in general that is also something that I will attempt to do in Might and Magic VII. However, Might and Magic VII has one feature that was not present in Might and Magic VI, which is the quest line has branching pathways. So in Might and Magic VI it was just a linear storyline from start to finish. In Might and Magic VII, you essentially have to choose between, the good side and the evil side. And I haven't fully decided which side I'm gonna pick. I'll give it some thought, but probably by episode 3 I'll have decided which pathway I'm gonna choose. Of course, the implication that it has is that we will no longer be able to do every single quest that exists in the entire game, because that would require 2 playthroughs or a way to glitch yourself into the inaccessible quests, which I'm not going to do because that's a surefire way to ruin your save file. So we are already restricted by the game's design in terms of how much of it we can do in a single playthrough. And the other thing I decided was that, like with Might and Magic VI, this is going to be one single playthrough. I won't be doing a second playthrough to see the alternate endings, because, again, I guess I'm gonna briefly get a little bit philosophical here, but in thinking about the restrictions that this game is placing on me and how I felt about them, I learned about the kind of gamer that I was and what matters to me in video games. And I think of myself as a completionist, but really I think I'm struggling to find a good term for it. Maybe perfectionist might be a better term, in that I don't necessarily care about seeing every single piece of game content that exists in a game. I care more about taking one playthrough and just pushing it as far as I can go. And in this series, I will once again be starting with the default party, which I think the classes are changed, but in this party, in this game, they start you with a knight, a thief, a cleric, and a sorcerer. So again, I'll just be taking that default party and just pushing as far as I can go with that party. And like, which party I pick doesn't necessarily impact which quests we're doing. That's going to be impacted purely by the player's choice. So for the first part of it, in terms of the quests, that's going to be limited by which choice we pick. But what the party you pick does have implications for is for which skills you're able to attain high levels of mastery in, and also certain actions that you can and can't do, and also certain pieces of equipment that you can and cannot use based on which characters you've opted to go with. And I'll go through those things one by one. So one new thing introduced in this game is that there are now restrictions by class based on how far you can go in a particular skill. So in Might and Magic VI, you also had restrictions on who could learn a skill. So for instance, clerics and archers couldn't learn plate armor. The highest they could go was chain armor, but they could go as high, they could attain the highest level of mastery in chain armor, which in that game was the master tier. In this game, there is one tier above master called grandmaster, and not every class can become grandmaster in every skill that they are allowed to learn. In fact, some classes are capped at expert or master, or I think there are certain skills for certain classes that you're allowed to learn them, but you can't even become an expert. That one I'll have to double check. It might be that you can become an expert, but certainly there are skills that you could never become a master in for certain classes. Now that poses an issue, because for Might and Magic VI, one of my objectives was that I wanted at least, like for every skill in the game, I wanted at least one party member who was a master in that skill. And I was able to do that because my party, between them, they ran the entire gamut, including useless skills like diplomacy, or even like weapon skills that nobody was using. We did that, but we cannot do that in this game. For instance, let's look at the default party that I'm going to go with. Knight, thief, cleric, sorcerer. There is nobody in the game who can become grandmaster in axe, for instance. I think the highest we can go is the warrior who can become a master in axe. To have a grandmaster axe, I think it's either the archer or the ranger that will be able to become grandmaster axe. But if we're not going to go with an archer or a ranger, then no one in our party will be able to have that high level of mastery in that skill. A more pertinent example is we'll have nobody in our party who can become a grandmaster alchemist. Now, alchemy is a separate skill in this game, and the kinds of potions you're allowed to brew are dictated by how high your alchemy skill is. And in order to make the highest level of potions, which is the black potions, you need to be, I think you need to be a grandmaster alchemist for that. And the highest we'll be able to go is master, which is what the sorcerer will eventually be able to attain. Now, this affects another one of my goals, because in Might and Magic VI, my goal was that I'll brew one of every kind of potion, which we were able to do in that game because there were no restrictions on what you can and what you couldn't do. All you needed were the ingredients. Here, even if you have the ingredients, you won't be able to make certain potions if your skill is too low. So what this means is that no matter which party combination I pick, there will be certain skills that I won't have the highest level of mastery in. And for this reason, I have dropped the old objective of trying to have all the skills, because even if I did get all the skills, I wouldn't be able to have a Grandmaster in all those skills. And then I asked myself, well, what is the point of this exercise if the game is already limiting me? Like, if the game's placing a cap on what the highest skill I can have, like, what is the point of me teaching the unarmed skill, which I'm never gonna use, if I can't even become a Grandmaster in that, right? So I have completely dropped that objective for this playthrough. I'm only gonna be, for the most part, going with the skills that are useful. I might pick some extra ones for like flavor, role-playing, but I'm not gonna be trying to get every possible skill that's available to me, because it would just feel hollow, because even if I did that, I would know, because of the way the game restricts me, that it's nowhere near the perfect level that I would like. And for a kind of similar reason, I'm also not going to bother with alchemy, because in order to be able to do that, I would need to, I think, bring the druid into the party. I think that's the class that can become a Grandmaster Alchemist, and in order to do that, I would need to leave out one of the 4 party members that I'm going with. If I leave out the sorcerer, suddenly I don't have the master elemental spells. I don't want to lose those, I like them too much. If I leave out the cleric, I no longer have the Grandmaster self-guild spells, you know, body, spirit, and mind. I don't want to lose those because I like them too much. And I don't want to leave out the thief, because then I would lose Grandmaster Dagger, which I just loved too much as a skill. And I don't want to leave the knight out, because I don't want to lose Grandmaster Armsmaster, which might be my single favorite skill in the game. So, for that reason, I've decided I'm not gonna worry too much about Grandmaster Alchemy. I'll only teach alchemy to my sorcerer in order to make potions that are useful. And even then, a lot of those potions, like the black potions that give you permanent stat boosts, we'll be able to simply find or to buy. So we're not going to worry too much about alchemy. So those are 2 things that I won't be doing compared to what I did in Might and Magic VI. One thing that I will be doing, or will be trying to do, is I will keep my old objective of trying to full clear every map area and every interior zone of all hostile enemies, and also trying to find all the secrets. Although some of the secrets are so well hidden that there are some that I might not be able to find until the very end of the game, which is when I usually do like a secrets roundup video going through all the stuff that I missed. So I will still try to be comprehensive in that sense, but there is a potential caveat here. I don't remember, and this caveat is based on the fact that there are branching pathways. I don't remember if the branching pathways mean that certain areas are accessible or inaccessible based on whether you go the good route or the evil route. I feel like there aren't, but it might just be that I've forgotten since last played the game a very long time ago. So again, because I'm only going to be doing one playthrough, I'm trying to push that one playthrough as far as I can go, if there are branching pathways that prevent us from going to certain locations, they unfortunately will just be things that we don't consider. We will only be going to the locations that we are able to, but those locations, we will be trying to clear them as best as we can. That was all about how we're going to deal with exploring the space in this game. Well, before I get to the final important thing that I want to talk about, I'll address like the other miscellaneous things you can do. Like there are certain mini games, certain, I guess you can call them extracurricular activities that you can do in this game that may not explicitly have quests associated with them. For instance, in Might and Magic VI, you could do arena combat. There was also the circus, and there were the shrines that you could visit. There will be things like those in this game as well. I won't list all of them, partly because I don't remember, and partly because I don't want to spoil every single thing, right? For those who don't know about this game, I want at least some of it to be like, oh, that's a cool little thing, I didn't know you were about to do that. So for that reason, I'm not going to detail those, but rest assured we will be doing all of them. All of them that we're allowed to. I don't know if the alignment we picked will have any restrictions, but we'll deal with that as we get to it. Now, those of you who watched my Might and Magic VI Let's Play, after hearing everything I've talked about just now, will note that there's one objective that I conspicuously have not talked about so far, and that is, of course, hunting down artifacts. Now, the thing about Might and Magic VII is that it's similar to Might and Magic VI in that there is a large pool of potential artifacts that you can find, but the game limits how many of them you can find in a single playthrough, at least how many of them you can find randomly. And because of the way the game generates loot, which I talk about in a long, just detail-oriented video in the MM6 series, and it's the same here. Because of the way the game generates loot, it's possible for you to, for the game to spawn artifacts and internally count them as having been found by you, and then take them off the list of findable artifacts, and indeed reduce your number of findable artifacts without you ever realizing that it's happened. And the reason this is a challenge for me is because I do not know this game as well as I know Might and Magic VI. So in Might and Magic VI, I was pretty confident that I knew most of those places where that risk was there. It's why I stayed away from Dragon Sand and Paradise Valley for so long. Although, if you watched my MM6 series, you'll know that the first artifact we found was actually in a place where I didn't think artifacts could spawn. It was in some kind of totally not remarkable looking chest in the Mire of the Damned. So maybe I don't know MM6 as well as I thought I did, but the point is, however well I do or don't know MM6, I have much less confidence in this game. But at the same time, I don't want to lose any artifact spawns. I want to find all the artifacts. Getting those 13 random artifacts is a very important objective. So how am I going to do this? Given that I don't know that much about this game, and any area that I walk into might have a chest somewhere that I don't know that might have an artifact, and I might lose it without even realizing it. Well, don't worry about that, because I have a way to make sure that we get all 13 random artifacts. And not only that, but I have a way to make sure that it happens almost essentially from the outset of the game. And one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this happens. And if you're a veteran of the series, you might know what it is I'm talking about and what it is that I plan to do. If you don't, I'm not going to spoil it for you because it's kind of a crazy thing that I'm going to attempt to do. I don't yet know if I'll be successful, mainly because it's not something that I've specifically done before. I've only read about other people saying that they've done it, and I'm gonna take them at their word that it's number one, possible, and number two, feasible. But we'll find out, let's say, by video number 3. Yeah, video number 3, or maybe video 4. It depends on how we split this up, but you'll find out very early in the series whether or not I was able to do this. Okay, so I think that was the last thing I wanted to cover, which is how we're going to deal with the artifacts objective. And I think that's about everything we wanted to talk about in this video. I'm just going to summarize it quickly at the end about what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. So we are going to try to do all the quests that we can, with the understanding that there are certain quests we won't be able to do because the game has branching pathways, and we're only doing one playthrough, so some quests will be left undone. We will not be trying to pick up every single skill in the game because of the way the game restricts skill masteries. We will mainly be focusing on useful skills. For a similar reason, we will not be trying to do alchemy to brew every single potion in the game, mainly because our party will be leaving out its alchemist, and so there are certain potions we won't be able to make. We will be trying to explore areas and to clear them of hostile creatures as best as we can. We may or may not be limited in which areas we can go to by the game's branching pathways. We'll find out about that as we get into the game. We will be doing any interesting side quests or additional activities, anything that feels significant, whether or not it has a quest associated with it. We will be trying to do any extra little thing like that. And finally, the artifacts. We will be trying our absolute hardest to make sure we get all of the 13 random artifact spawns. And with that little recap done, we are done with this intro. So once again, I welcome you to the series. It's going to be another long one. Probably not as long as MM6, but you know what? It's gonna take a while, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. And I hope to see you in the next video, which is where we will be making our party. So until then, take care.